Helen sat at her kitchen table, her coffee cold, not because she forgot, but because she felt drained. At 76, she had people around her, yet she felt lonelier, more exhausted, more stuck. Something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Then one day, she overheard something shocking, something that made her rethink every relationship in her life. Some people weren't just difficult, they were quietly stealing her energy, her happiness, maybe even years of her life. And the worst part, she never saw it coming. Have you ever felt drained by someone but didn't realize why? Tell me in the comments yes or no. These 5 types of people can damage your health in ways you never imagined. And the last one, it might be someone you love. Helen always believed the people in her life meant well, but the truth, some were quietly draining her energy, raising her stress, and even harming her health. And she didn't see it until it was almost too late. Science proves it. Toxic relationships don't just make life harder. They weaken the immune system, increase blood pressure, and even speed up aging. Chronic stress releases cortisol, a hormone that, over time, leads to fatigue, memory issues, and a weakened heart. And the worst part? The damage happens so gradually that by the time you realize it, years have already been stolen. Helen didn't want to believe it. These were people she cared about. But then one day, she looked in the mirror. Really looked. The tired eyes, the tension in her shoulders, the constant exhaustion. It wasn't just aging. It was them. That's when she started paying attention. And she saw the patterns, 5 types of people who slowly chip away at your happiness, your confidence, and even your health. And one of these 5 people, I was shocked when I realized I had let them control my life for years. Before we get into it, hit the like button and subscribe if you're ready to take back your energy, your peace, and your life. Now let's talk about the first person you need to watch out for. 1. The well-meaning poison. I thought she was my friend. Helen and Norma had been friends for over 30 years. They had shared laughs, memories, and countless cups of coffee. But over time, something changed. Or maybe Helen just started noticing it. Every conversation felt heavier. Every call left her feeling drained. But Norma never yelled, never criticized. She just had a way of making things seem hopeless. Aching knees. That's just how aging is. Feeling lonely. Get used to it. Trying something new? At our age, why bother? Norma meant well. She wasn't cruel, just resigned. And that resignation was contagious. At first, Helen didn't think much of it. But then she realized every time she spent time with Norma, she walked away feeling a little less motivated, a little more tired. And the worst part? She started repeating Norma's words in her own mind. This is just how aging is. Maybe I should get used to it. Why bother? Negativity is powerful. Science proves it. Constant exposure to pessimism raises stress hormones, weakens the immune system, and increases the risk of depression. It doesn't just darken your mood, it affects your body, your energy, and even how quickly you age. One day, Helen made an excuse and skipped their usual coffee date. And for the first time in years, she felt lighter. That's when it hit her. Norma wasn't trying to drag her down, but some people, no matter how much you love them, make you feel worse, not better. So Helen made a choice. She didn't cut Norma off completely, but she set limits. She shifted conversations to more positive topics. And when Norma went down a negative spiral, Helen excused herself. And something incredible happened. She had more energy. She started moving more. She even signed up for a new class she'd been putting off. Because when you stop surrounding yourself with negativity, you make room for joy. Have you ever had someone in your life like this? Someone whose words made you doubt yourself? Tell me in the comments, yes or no. And the next type of person, they don't just drain you, they take and take until there's nothing left. 2. The kind manipulator. She always needed help. I never saw it for what it was. Helen had always been the kind of person who helped others without a second thought. It was just who she was. So when her neighbor, Sylvia, knocked on her door asking for a small favor, a ride to the store, help with her garden, watching her cat for the weekend, Helen didn't mind. At first it felt good to be needed, but then the favors never stopped. Sylvia's car broke down. Then she needed a ride to the doctor. Then she needed Helen to pick up groceries for her just this once. And then again, and again. Helen never said no. How could she? Sylvia was always so grateful, always so kind. But then one day, Helen needed a favor. She had an appointment and couldn't drive. Sylvia smiled and said, "Oh, I wish I could help, but I have plans." That's when it hit Helen. Sylvia never had time for her. The friendship wasn't mutual, it was one-sided. Helen wasn't a friend, she was a convenience. One-sided relationships don't just drain you emotionally, they wear down your health. Studies show that people who constantly give without receiving support in return experience higher levels of chronic stress. And chronic stress? It leads to high blood pressure, heart disease, and even a weakened immune system. So Helen made a decision. The next time Sylvia called with a small request, Helen did something she hadn't done before. She said no. At first, Sylvia laughed, assuming Helen was joking. When Helen stood firm, Sylvia's tone changed. She got short, distant, and then the calls stopped. For a while, Helen felt guilty. Had she been too harsh? Had she let a friend down? But then she noticed something. She had more time, more energy, more peace. Because when you stop being someone's safety net, you realize how heavy the burden really was. Have you ever had someone like this in your life? Someone who always needed something, but was never there when you did? Tell me in the comments, yes or no. And the next person? They don't just take your time or energy, they take away your confidence without you even noticing. 3. The person who secretly enjoys your struggles. She smiled when I failed. At first, Helen didn't think much of it. Her cousin Linda had always been the joking type, a little blunt but harmless, or so Helen thought. Then one day, Helen struggled to open a jar. Nothing unusual, it happens, but when she glanced up, she saw it. Linda was smiling. Not a comforting smile, not an "I'll help you" smile, a smug, almost amused smile. "You're just getting old," Linda said, grinning. Helen brushed it off, but then she started noticing the pattern. Every time she forgot a name, every time she struggled to bend down, every time she hesitated before stepping off a curb, Linda was there, watching, smirking, making little comments that seemed harmless on the surface but carried something deeper underneath. It wasn't just teasing, it was enjoyment. Linda liked feeling superior, and that was dangerous. Research proves it. The way you see aging affects how you experience it. If you start believing you're too old to improve, you stop trying. And the moment you stop trying, decline speeds up. It's not just in your head, It's biology. Negative self-perception increases stress, weakens the body, and even shortens lifespan. Helen had a choice. She could absorb Linda's words, let them shape her reality, let them make her weaker, or she could reject them. So she did. The next time Linda made a joke, Helen didn't force a smile. She didn't play along. She simply looked her cousin in the eye and said, "I may be older, but I'm getting stronger every day." Linda laughed, but this time there was something else in her expression. Surprise. Helen wasn't playing that game anymore. And something interesting happened. Linda's comments slowed down, then they stopped. Because when you refuse to let someone define you, they lose their power over you. Have you ever had someone like this in your life? Someone who made you doubt yourself without you even realizing it? Tell me in the comments, yes or no. And the next type of person, they don't just affect your mind, they can make you physically sick. 4. The silent saboteur. I trusted him, but he made me weaker. Helen never thought someone who loved her could also hold her back. Her son Peter was her rock. He checked in on her, helped with errands, and always made sure she was comfortable. She never doubted his love. But then, one day, something strange happened. Helen mentioned she wanted to start walking more, maybe even try a senior fitness class. Peter laughed. "Mom, you don't have to do all that. You should be relaxing. You've earned it." Helen brushed it off, but then it happened again. She wanted to carry her own groceries. "No, Mom, I got it." She thought about taking up gardening. "At your age, that sounds exhausting." She mentioned dancing again like she used to. You don't need to push yourself. Just enjoy life. Peter wasn't cruel. He wasn't trying to hurt her. But Helen started realizing every time she wanted to challenge herself, to move more, to stay strong, Peter made it seem like she shouldn't. And slowly, she started believing it. She caught herself sitting more, walking less, choosing the elevator instead of the stairs, accepting that she was supposed to take it easy. But then she came across something that shook her. A study showing that inactivity is one of the biggest risk factors for mobility loss, heart disease, and even dementia. The less you move, the faster your body declines. It's not rest. It's slow deterioration. That's when Helen saw the truth. Peter wasn't protecting her. He was unknowingly weakening her. So she made a choice. The next time Peter tried to take the grocery bags, she held firm. "I appreciate you, but I need to do this myself." The next time he told her to take it easy, she smiled and said, "I'll rest when I'm done living." At first, Peter resisted, he worried, but then he saw her, standing taller, walking stronger, laughing more. Because love should never be an excuse for decline. Have you ever had someone like this? Someone who meant well, but made you feel weaker instead of stronger? Tell me in the comments, yes or no. And the last person, they're the most dangerous of all, because they make you doubt your own reality. 5. The person you least expect. I never thought she'd be the one holding me back. Helen could handle a lot. She had dealt with negative friends, takers, and even people who secretly enjoyed her struggles. But the hardest truth to accept, the person holding her back the most, was her own daughter, Anna. Anna loved her mother, there was no doubt about that. But love and control often look the same, and for years, Helen hadn't seen the difference. At first, it was small things. "Mom, you never visit enough. I guess I'll just do everything myself. You're always so busy. I thought family was supposed to come first." Helen didn't think much of it. After all, wasn't it normal for daughters to want their mothers close? But then the guilt started affecting her choices. She cancelled plans with friends because Anna needed her that day. She hesitated before going on a trip because Anna made her feel selfish for wanting time for herself. She ignored her own needs, her hobbies, her independence, because no matter what she did, it never seemed to be enough for Anna. And then Helen read something that made her heart stop. Guilt isn't just an emotion, it's physical. Studies show that chronic guilt raises cortisol levels, leading to anxiety, high blood pressure, and even digestive issues. The body treats guilt like stress, and stress slowly wears you down, mentally, emotionally, and physically. Helen had always put Anna first, but now for the first time, she asked herself, at what cost? That night, Helen did something shocking. Anna called, asking Helen to drop everything and come over. But instead of her usual, "Of course, honey," Helen took a deep breath and said, "No." Just that, no explanation, no long excuse, just a simple, firm no. There was silence on the other end, then a sigh, then, "All right, Mom, maybe another day." And just like that, the guilt lost its power. Helen wasn't abandoning her daughter, she was choosing herself too. Because boundaries aren't selfish, they're survival. Which of these have you faced? Let me know in the comments. And here's the real question. What happens when you finally remove these people from your life? The answer might change everything. Helen didn't wake up one morning and cut everyone off. That's not how life works. But she did something even more powerful. She started making small changes that led to huge freedom. At first, it was just little shifts. She stopped engaging with negativity. When someone started complaining, she changed the subject. If they refused to shift, she simply excused herself. She realized she didn't have to absorb their pessimism. She stopped rescuing people. She had spent years being the person who always said yes, who always showed up, who always sacrificed. But when she started saying no to those who only called when they needed something, something incredible happened. Most of them disappeared. And Helen, she didn't miss them. She set clear boundaries. She stopped explaining herself, stopped justifying her choices, stopped feeling guilty for putting herself first. And for the first time in years, she felt like her own person again. And you know what happened next? She felt lighter, her sleep improved, her stress melted away. Even her doctor noticed her blood pressure was lower, her energy was higher. Because here's the truth. When you remove the wrong people, your body and mind heal. And then came the best part. Once Helen let go of the wrong people, the right ones had space to show up in her life. People who lifted her up instead of weighing her down. People who made her feel alive instead of drained. And for the first time in a long time, Helen realized aging doesn't have to mean losing yourself. Sometimes it just means letting go of what no longer serves you. Have you ever let go of someone and felt instantly lighter? Tell me in the comments, yes or no. Helen never thought she was surrounded by toxic people. They weren't bad people. They didn't mean to hurt her. But the truth, they were stealing her time. They were stealing her energy. And worst of all, they were stealing her peace. And now the real question, what about you? Do you ever feel constantly drained after spending time with certain people? Do you ever feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying to keep the peace? Do you ever feel like no matter how much you give, it's never enough? Because here's the hard truth. It's not just in your head. Science confirms it. The wrong people won't just make your days harder, they can actually shorten your life. Chronic stress from toxic relationships raises cortisol levels, weakens your immune system, increases your risk of heart disease, and even accelerates aging. And the worst part, most of the time they don't even realize they're doing it. So if you constantly feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or guilty, it's time to ask yourself, is it really me, or is it the people around me? Helen asked herself that question, and when she finally answered it honestly, her entire life changed. Now it's your turn. What's one thing you refuse to tolerate anymore as you age? Let's talk in the comments. If this video opened your eyes, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more advice on staying strong, independent, and happy as you age, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for what's next.